Corporate Council on Africa and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce have warned for years about the dangers of diminishing U.S.-Africa trade relative to global competitors. Do you see a dramatic improvement in U.S.-Africa trade and investment in 2017?
Well, I think that Africa has lots of partners, and I don't think that we're saying that they shouldn't. In fact, the more the better. But many of the African ministers of trade and commerce I talk to, many of the African businesses that are engaged with U.S. businesses or want to be, really express their desire to have more U.S. investment and a greater engagement with U.S. companies. They like doing business with the United States, and they like dealing with U.S. companies that do a lot of things that some companies from other countries, will leave them unnamed, don't do. They don't, U.S. companies don't tend to bring thousands of our own workers to the continent. We do a lot more technology transfer and partnering with the Africans, so that when our companies leave out, the Africans are able to do that. So we have a number of U.S. policies that are supporting that kind of engagement, and with the right policies on the African side, we're seeing that the business environment, the doing business environment, is facilitating more inward investment from the U.S., more trade, more joint ventures. So again, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think that U.S. companies, we could name a few, are looking to establish facilities on the continent using AGOA as a base for producing products that can come to the U.S. under that program. And we believe that with that kind of environment, that kind of a program for duty-free access to the huge U.S. market, African nations really are able to compete with producers of products from other continents. Many have said the Africans are where China was 30 years ago. So there's a lot of promise there. I think that we're just seeing a lot of things that the Africans are basically able to do that is really critical.
And Ambassador Cohen, what are your insights on that?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of aspects, a lot of potential. For example, if you look at a map of Africa, it's really surrounded by a lot of water, right? And there are a lot of fish in those waters. And one thing that we could do to help them through our military is the protection of fishery resources. And this is already happening. We have a U.S. command called AFRICOM that provides technical assistance in military, especially help against terrorism. But more and more you're seeing protection of fisheries. I've been to Mauritania, where I've seen factories there preparing final meals, fish meals, that are sent up to Portugal, Spain, and France, where they're just sold directly in supermarkets. That is tremendous progress in sanitation. And they're inspected regularly, and they pass with flying colors. There's a very expensive fish that's sold in the United States called orange roughy. It's a wonderful fish, and most of it comes from Namibia and Angola. But they don't do a good job of protecting that resource. So ships from other countries, who I will not name, come in and fish without permission, without paying any taxes and that sort of thing. So one thing we could do for them is help them protect their fish resources and really benefit both consumers and producers. Another thing is supply chain. Look at BMW in the United States. It's a German company. Their biggest factory in the world is here in the United States. And where do they get a lot of their parts? Well, a lot of their parts are manufactured in South Africa, which take advantage of AGOA to send in these parts duty-free and help and help BMW become a major player in the U.S. automobile market. And finally, there's another aspect. There's the IT. You know, in Africa, cell phones and telecommunications are extremely important. And I think there's a lot of interaction between the United States and Africa in this area. Plus, there is the issue of remittances. You know, the United States has a major African diaspora. Uh, I don't know how many people there are living in the United States from Africa, but look at, I met the other day with a Nigerian physician. He is chief of urology at the University of West Virginia Medical Center. And I asked him, how many of you are here? How many physicians? He said, we have an organization with 10,000 practicing Nigerian physicians. So a lot of professionals there who send money back to Africa, which can be used for investment. I looked at some statistics, and I've seen that the remittances from Africans living in the U.S. to Africa exceeds all foreign aid from the World Bank and from the European Union, from the United States. So there's a lot of existing interaction which can be enhanced. And also you have, in addition to the African Growth and Opportunity Act, there's a program in USAID that's not often talked about. It's called Feed the Future. And what that is, and it's not terribly expensive because, in effect, it does what U.S. agricultural colleges did in the 19th century. They help bring technology to the farmer. And if you look at African agricultural production, so much of it is wasted by poor storage and poor transportation and poor seeds and poor irrigation. So this type of Feed the Future technical assistance, which is not expensive, is helping Africans modernize their agriculture to make production very, very efficient. And I mentioned the Nigerian manioc. Well, that came from Feed the Future, and more countries are benefiting